Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Author Meet and Greet. Today we have with us Heather Brockman. She is the founder and CEO of Heather's Mobile Pet Salon. And it's really a pleasure to have Heather with us today and to share about her journey of how she went through a terminal cancer diagnosis and is now cancer free. And it took her about 398 days. And we have her with us sharing her inspiring story. So, welcome, Heather.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's so inspiring and uplifting to hear, your story. We've been, we've known each other since, I guess, almost 1 year and a few months, give or
Yeah.
take. Heather was part of our second anthology, Fired Up 2, where she shared her inspiring story. And now, let's begin today's session by getting to know a little bit about your journey and how it was. So, Heather, how did it start? How did you first get to know that you had cancer?
Well, like with most women, I found a lump, and it was October of 2019, and I just felt a tiny lump in my left breast, and I'll never forget that fear and that instant panic of, oh my gosh, is this cancer? I mean, anytime you find a lump in your body, sadly, that's like the first thing that you go to. I was too scared to face that. So I tried any kind of alternative method, anything to avoid going to the doctor to actually hear the worst case scenario. Um, Unfortunately, things progressed and I ended up having to go to a doctor, and it was, in fact, cancer. It was stage 2 at the time. And so that's where the journey started. So from there, I tried a form of treatment called SOT. It's kind of a non-conventional type of treatment that's in theory supposed to kill the tumor just based on your specific cancer type and blood type. Um, it did not work, unfortunately. So it spread to stage 4 within a matter of 6 months. And at that time, that's where my options were looking a little bleak. And I decided to take things into my own hands and figure out what I was going to do. And that ultimately started me on this path of self discovery and healing and just figuring out what I was fighting for and what I wanted my life to look like. And was I really going to accept what the doctors were telling me? And that's really what spurred all of this. And it's never something that I thought would be in my life, but I can honestly say that I'm really grateful for all of the lessons, and I'm grateful for what it showed me. I'm here today, and I'm hoping that I can help others on their path as well.
Yeah. Um, how difficult was it as you left your country and went to Mexico and started your treatment there? How difficult was it, mentally, physically, emotionally, to go out there and stay alone and get on with the treatment?
It was the scariest time of my entire life. So after I discovered it was stage 4, I instantly started doing my research, and I found a place in Mexico in Tijuana called Immunity Therapy Center, and they said that I was a good candidate. So within a week or so, I was down in Mexico, and the treatments, I went down there with in my head, like, I'm not doing chemotherapy. I'm not going to do chemotherapy. And I did all of the non-conventional treatments, and then they said, well, we want to try a low dose targeted chemotherapy. And I just remember thinking that this is everything that I stand against. So this started me on this back and forth of, if you're here, you may as well fight. But then it was also this is everything you stood against. So this was my very first kind of inner battle of what do I stand for? And am I going to let my ego get in the way? Ultimately, I did end up doing a couple rounds of low dose chemo, and it was very apparent very early on that I needed to be very careful with what I was saying. Um, I'm a very firm believer that we manifest our lives with the words that we use. And I had said since day one that chemo is poison and it's going to kill me. So as I'm watching this chemo, and it's the red devil grind, pretty much the worst thing you can have. As I'm watching this go into my veins, I was I was scared because I realized that this whole time I had been manifesting that this is going to kill me, and here it is about to go in my body. So I at that time it was like, okay, I need to change my words. I need to change how what I'm putting out there and what I'm expecting my life to look like. Um, During my time there, I was there twice. So I was there for 6 weeks the first time and then 7 weeks the second time. And the treatment was hard and I was sick and I lost a lot of weight. I was down to 127 pounds on a 5'9" frame. I was very weak. I was angry. I was sad. I was hurting. But there was a part of me that knew that I needed to do this alone and I needed to be there by myself. I knew that if somebody had come down there with me and stayed with me the whole time, that my focus would then be on them and making sure that they're okay and making sure that they're not bored or they've got something to do. And throughout my entire life, I had never focused on me. Never. I'd always thrown myself into work or thrown myself into other people, and I lost track of what was important. So I knew, even though it was not fun and it was very difficult, I knew that in order for me to fully heal, I needed to spend this time by myself and ask myself some really hard questions. And the very first question that I asked myself is, do I have a life worth fighting for? Like, why am I fighting to beat this terminal diagnosis when up to this point, I've had a life that was filled with strife and trauma and pain and unspeakable things that I wouldn't wish on anybody. So if that was the life that I had, why am I fighting to have the same life? So I knew I needed to change. And in order for me to change, I had to start asking some really hard questions. All of these incidents that I had been through in my life and these traumas that I had experienced, what led to that? Where did my role come in to play? And I had to be accountable for my actions that led to everything that led up to this point. It was no longer a time for me to point the finger or place blame on anybody else. This was my life. I needed to take responsibility for it. And if I wanted to live, I needed to own all of it. And I needed to decide what I wanted my life to look like.
Yeah. When you were looking at non-conventional treatments rather than what the doctors were trying to make you go through, that this is what you have to do, you looked out for other treatments. um, how did you research that? How did you know what was right for your body?
So I just knew that at first I didn't want to do traditional chemo. It just seemed like, now I understand that there's a place for Eastern and Western medicine, but I don't think it should be all or nothing. So the very cookie cutter approach of cut it out, poison it, and burn it. Every single person is unique in their own way. So how can they say, you have this type of cancer, so we're going to do the same approach no matter what, because this is just what we do. So I just started Googling cancer treatment, holistic therapies, and I started doing a lot of research right away when I first found out it was stage 2. Anybody that had survived cancer, Chris Wark was one. He survived stage 3 colon cancer and he refused chemotherapy. So I thought, if he can do it, I can do it. That's always been my mindset. If somebody else can do it, why can't I do it? I listened to as many positive and uplifting podcasts and read as many books as I could and tried to absorb as much information as I could about mindset and the dis-ease that's actually in our body and how to heal that. During my research, there was a clinic that I called, and it was outrageously overpriced, or outrageously priced, I should say. And I just remember feeling really defeated. Like, how is anybody supposed to be able to afford $9,000 a month cash for this kind of treatment when insurance won't cover anything that is not conventional? So it was just a lot of digging and a lot of asking questions and a lot of, okay, so this is where mainstream medical care is trying to take me. So let's just look the complete opposite way and see what I can do. And with that started the backtracking of, so this happened in my body. So how did I create this? And let's go back to the basics. Like, let's go back to how this showed up in my body and let's start to heal that. Let's heal the emotional aspects of this and then see what happens with that. So that was the emotional healing went hand in hand with the treatments that I was going through. I wish I could say that I focused on one thing at a time, but unfortunately I had to deal with everything at once.
And how was the reaction or the support of the people around you?
Oh gosh, I had a massive support system. Ironically enough, I always thought that if I died, would anyone miss me? That was always the story that I said to myself, that no one would miss me. I would just be another person that was gone. When I found out that it was stage 4 cancer, I had a handful of friends rally instantly, and they started a GoFundMe. And people that I didn't know were donating money, and they raised $80,000 for me to go to Mexico for this treatment because, of course, it wasn't covered by insurance. And when I was there, people were trying to do food trains and they were being as supportive as they knew how. I wasn't in a mindset to really receive anything because I was so angry at the situation. But I can look back now and see that everybody did the best that they could, and they supported me in the ways that they knew how, and honestly, in the ways that I would allow it. I was really closed off as well, and very reactive. So I don't really blame people for not wanting to reach out, but there were still a lot of people that they did check on me, and there was so many prayers and so many well wishes, and it did not go unnoticed. I mean, I'm here today, and I truly believe in the power of prayer as well.
Um, what would you suggest to others who are going on a similar journey, but they feel, all alone and don't know whether they should reach out to friends and family, or keep the news to themselves? How will they go through the long treatment cycle? What would be your advice and how to go about it?
Well, for that, I didn't tell a lot of people at first when it was stage 2. When it was stage 4 and I knew I needed to leave the country, that's when I started sharing with people. Cancer is a very personal, private journey. So whether you choose to share it with others or you choose to keep it to yourself, I don't want to say one is better than the other. For me and for my journey, it was best that I did share because that was part of one of my blockages. Like, I didn't know how to ask for help. So this was actually one of my lessons. When it comes to support, whatever route you choose, make sure that you are confident in that route, whether it is traditional chemo or traditional routes, or you want to take a non-traditional approach to this. Make sure that you are at peace with your decision, because at the end of the day, you have to live with the side effects. You have to live with the consequences, both good and bad. And if you don't like the consequences and you followed somebody else's advice, who are you going to be upset with? So, all I would say, I'm so sorry. All I would say is if you do make the decision, just make sure that you are confident with it.
Um, you have mentioned that this brought you closer to God, and there's one specific phrase that still keeps coming back to you. Can you share about that?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
Sure. Like this journey, you had mentioned that it's brought you closer to God.
Yes.
And there's one phrase that
Yes, I'm
has,
so sorry. I did not know my dogs were going to be barking. So sorry about that.
no worries.
What were you saying?
Yeah. So I was asking, like, you had mentioned that this journey has brought you, closer to God, and there was one phrase that has, kept on coming back to you. Would you like to share about that?
Yes. So there was one phrase that it really sticks out, and it was, "Why should I spare you if you will hate what I heal?" And so to me, what that meant is I did not like myself. I hated myself, actually. And so why would God go through all of this and save me and give me this second chance if I'm going to fall right back into these old patterns and these old issues and these old thought processes? So that was a big one that I still think about every single day.
And how was it, ringing the bell after, your terminal diagnosis and that entire journey?
It was it felt really weird because I wanted to ring that bell for so many of the cancer patients that didn't get the chance to ring that bell. But, and I actually wrote about this, it did feel a little incomplete because I still needed to go through surgeries and I still had, reconstruction ahead of me. And so I still had a long path. So even though I rang the bell, it felt incomplete. Um, I do think it's something that's important. It's just kind of like closing that chapter. But for me, it was closing a chapter with the chemo, but definitely not closing the chapter with the cancer.
Um, there is an aspect that you touched on which generally doesn't get highlighted a lot: PTSD, survivor's guilt.
Yes.
Um, would you like to share about that?
Yes. So along my journey, I did lose a lot of people that I met at the treatment center, a lot of friends along the way. And so there was this guilt of, why was I spared and they weren't? And I do understand that everybody has their own path. I do understand that everybody has their own path, but I also had to take into consideration that I was chosen for this path, and I needed to accept the fact that whatever was meant to be was meant to be for me. And I needed to accept that each person that did pass on, it was their time, and I couldn't really question that.
Yeah, there is a pain which brings us to our purpose, and a mess to our message. You have shared all of this in detail in your book, Searle's Journey: How a Terminal Cancer Diagnosis Saved Your Life. So, would you like to talk about the title of the book?
Yes. So, A Soul's Journey: How a Terminal Diagnosis Saved My Life. So, this really was a journey for my soul, my mind, my body, everything. It wasn't just healing the cancer, it was healing me from the inside out. And I can honestly look back and see that this terminal diagnosis that I was faced with was the reason why I am now alive. Because without everything that I needed to address, I don't think I would be here today.
How difficult was it to relive those memories as you were writing your book?
It was uh it was pretty painful. I had to stop writing several times and just let things settle. Um when I first started writing it, it was just reliving everything, and I wasn't ready to process it, and I wasn't ready to go through everything again. And I still have moments where I'm like, wow, did that really happen? But now I can read it, and it's just a story, and I tell it, and it's just a story. It has been 3 years, so time heals wounds. But it was hard writing it, but it was also very healing.
Absolutely. And when I've read your book, and when I'm reading it, I feel as if I'm there along with you. You know, the reader is there along with you, going through each of those experiences and feeling that. And a lot of people have shared how they have uh, been moved to tears by your descriptions and everything that you've gone through. I hope that this book will be a great resource for different cancer survivors, people who are going through treatments, caregivers, etc. What was your idea, your purpose when you started to pen down those thoughts for a book?
Really, I just wanted to use this as a place where people could look for hope. I said from the beginning when I was in Mexico, all I want to do is help others, but how can I do that when I'm still in my own way? So as I was writing this, I was putting myself in the position of, I wish I had this when I was going through cancer, and felt like I had nowhere to turn. So I hope that it gives even one person a sense of hope, and that, wow, I don't have to just accept what's been given to me.
Absolutely. So the book, A Soul's Journey: How a Terminal Cancer Diagnosis, is releasing next Friday, the 16th. It'll be available on Amazon globally. And we look forward to sharing your message of hope, inspiration, um, uplifting, and empowering different people on this journey. Thank you so much, Heather, for being here, for talking to us. And I hope your message and your book reaches many, many people.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Uh, to all, we'll be sharing the link and the details of the book next week. We'll be meeting on the 14th of June for another round. and we'll keep you updated with the links and where you can get the book. So, till then, we look forward to sharing Heather's journey and helping it inspire a lot of people. Thank you. Have a
Thank you
great
so
day.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.